At the end of February, I went to fly back to Ireland. I was coming from Amsterdam, and I got to the Aer Lingus desk and handed in my passport, and the lady said, "Where's your PCR form?" And I said, I don't have one of those.
Am I allowed to travel today? I'm not recording you, I'm recording me.
I have to go now.
You have to go now.
I have to go to the gate.
This is Aer Lingus here. We're at Aer Lingus desk. Am I allowed to travel today? I bought a ticket.
You're not allowed to travel without a PCR test.
So you're denying me my right to travel.
I'm telling you, you need a PCR test, otherwise you're not allowed to travel.
But but I don't have a PCR test.
I'm not denying you to fly,
But are
you
you?
are denied to fly without a PCR
But
test.
are you an authority on my body?
No, sir, but
Okay.
those are the rules of the government.
But you're not here to enforce the rules of the government. So is there an Aer Lingus desk here? Is there somebody from Aer Lingus I can speak to?
No, there are not. Because they don't have representatives here.
Okay. So what is your name then, as a representative of Aer Lingus? I need to know who's denying me my right to travel. So you're not going to give me your name?
No, why should I?
Because you're not letting me board the plane.
That's not me, that's the government.
It's not the government, you're saying it's Aer Lingus. The government will let me, I can deal with them when I land. Right, okay.
Now, I'd heard a rumour that you'd had to have one of these PCR tests or treatments or procedures, but I wasn't into that. I didn't want to have it. It's not that I was trying to be difficult. I've had one before and it damaged me, and my understanding is that you can't force someone to have a treatment. So I wanted to opt out of that. I wanted to waive that right. And I very gently explained to her, I said, I can't do that, you know, for my health reasons. And to be fair to her, she was actually a very nice lady. Of course, she was a bit ruffled, we'll say, at being asked something that she couldn't provide the service that I required. So she was a bit agitated at the start, but I calmly chatted to her and I said, look, I can't do that. And she said I had to. So I asked her, I said, well, are you an authority on my body? Because my understanding is, you know, that's the one thing that I own. It's the one thing we all own. If you don't own anything in this world, it's your own body. So if I don't have a right to bodily integrity, if I don't have a right to decide what goes into my body, my orifices, well then I have no rights. But I do have a right to travel home, to go back to Ireland, the land where I was born, where my friends and family are. So I needed to get home. So I gently insisted the best I could. And when she kept on saying no, I said, well, you could be held accountable for this. There could be criminal charges for what you're doing. And I get it. You know, she's just a human being doing her job because her bosses told her to do it, and she's in an unfair position. It's not really her fault because her boss is to do it, and someone told them, Irish immigration told them they would fine them money if they let someone on the plane. So it's a difficult situation, and I appreciate that, but still there is the law, and we all have to be held accountable for our actions. So I tried to gently explain that best I could, and I asked for her name, and she got up and ran away when I asked her name. And so I got left standing there with a bunch of people in the queue sighing at me, oh, hurry up. And anyway.
Where's the PCR test?
I don't have a PCR test.
Then you can apply.
Is this regulation of the Irish state, or what? Could you just open the first page of that passport, please? Just on the front page, the first one? I'll get it. It says here that I'm free to travel.
Yeah, but you need a PCR test.
But I can't.
We're in a pandemic. Yeah, but then you can't travel if you don't do the test.
I thought, I'm stuck here in Amsterdam, I'm not going to be able to get home. What am I going to do? So I rang Dolores Cahill. I happened to have her number. I'd never even talked to her before, but I got a number from a friend of mine, and I rang her. I think it was 7 a.m. in Ireland, and she answered the phone, God bless her, and fair play to her, and she said, what are you doing at the baggage counter? Because she'd got from other countries to Ireland, and if she could do it, I could do it. Because my understanding is I'd be allowed on, I'd get to Ireland, and immigration might have issues. Where's your PCR form? Where's your locator form? And I just go, listen, I'm not participating in this. I'm on Irish soil. Here's my passport. I'm allowed travel. It says it here. And are you trying to hinder me? Are you trying to take my right away from me? And then we could deal with that in a court of law happily, right? But I couldn't even get to Ireland. So I rang Dolores and I said, I can't, what am I going to do? And she says, she never had bags with her before. So of course, I went and got a taxi, put my bags in a taxi, paid them money to drop them to my friend's house, went through security, got right up to where the plane boarding area is, and I was just gone through. The woman saw me with the other woman from earlier who ran away from me. She saw me and went, PCR form, and I was like, oh, here we go again. So we had another chat, and I said, listen, I'm in a, can we get the pilot? I said, the pilot was an Irishman. I said, let's talk to the pilot, and she said, the pilot can't let you on. Who can let me on? And we got...
So if someone's going to deny me my inalienable right to travel, I need to know their name so I can follow.
I'm Jacqueline.
Jacqueline.
But it's not me who's deciding about that,
okay.
huh?
Thank you,
government
Jacqueline.
Rules.
I'm Aidan. Nice to meet you, Jacqueline. Could you give me your
I'm sorry,
supervisor's name? Because
she was Maria.
Maria what?
I just called with her.
So, are they aware of the financial and equitable responsibility that they're going to be held accountable for denying a European citizen and one of the people of ERA their right to travel? Is the pilot from Aer Lingus?
Yeah, but he cannot decide about that as well because he's not from the government. He can decide if he wants you on board or not, but this has nothing to do with the plane. It has to do with the arrival. You're not allowed into the country without...
Yeah, but I can handle that. I can deal with the border police. That's between me and the state. It's a state decision. This is a company decision that you're not letting me board your plane. Which means that you, Marie, are denying me my right. What's Jacqueline's second name, and Marie's second name, please? And ideally your insurance number.
And we got talking. And she wasn't an enemy anymore. She started speaking to me like a human to human. And the other lady, she got involved and she was asking me, well, she was a little bit uptight at the start. And I explained to her, I said, look, this is my body. You wouldn't want anyone to touch your body that you didn't consent to. And I can't consent to that.
I suppose the situation is like it's my body. So unless somebody here today says they have an authority over my body, if you or your manager...
I'm just not the one who can decide about that. My supervisor is just checking out some things and she will call me back.
Perfect, but if whoever says yes or no, then that's whoever's responsible.
If we send you over there, we probably will get a fine as well, because we sent you there without a PCR test. So I need to know if it's fine or not.
Yes.
And the last thing I asked my supervisor, they said, no, you need a PCR test. So she's checking again.
So you guys think maybe it's the law that your company has to do it?
No, the law is that you're not allowed to travel without a PCR test anymore, but there are a few exemptions. I need to know your exemption.
And I thought that's between me and the state rather than me and the company.
No, because the company is being fined.
Is the security here for me?
No, they're here normally. They're everywhere, always.
And she said she can't let me on the plane. I said, that's fine, but the law is being broken. And so I need your name. So they did give me their name. They wouldn't give me the boss's name and they wouldn't give me the immigration person's name. They said they can't do that legally. I don't know if that's true or not. But I would love to know which authority is claiming that an Irish citizen, an Irish passport holder, one of the free sovereign people of Ireland isn't allowed back into the country. Whoever says that must be held accountable in a court of law. Because I didn't consent then and I don't consent now. No one's going to get to do a PCR test or any test on this body. Not while I have control or the mental capacity to say no. And I do not consent to any of that.
Sorry?
I'll happily answer your questions.
Yeah, why you need her last
So
name?
there is...
We're not making the rules.
Do you want me to answer the question?
Yeah.
Okay. So there are laws in place.
Yeah.
And one of the laws is, as it's written here on the passport, is we have a right to travel. Now you're under the impression that I need a PCR test. But I don't. But
that
you...
is told us.
I understand that.
Yeah.
So whoever's told you might be in breach of the law, and they have to be held accountable for that. Because I do have a right to travel, and I also have a right to what happens to my body, like you do.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody can touch this if I don't want them to,
Of course, yeah.
and I don't want anybody to do that.
Yeah.
It's not It's not safe for me.
No.
So, because of that, I need to get home.
Yeah.
I need to get home.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do. I don't want any hassle. I don't want any conflict. And if my state gives me a fine or whatever, I have no problem dealing with that in court.
You mean just if the state will give you a paper?
If the state wants to fine me,
he can travel without a PCR test.
I don't know. I don't need their permission to travel freely. The law is inalienable. It goes beyond any politician's view on what the policy should be. The fact is, I am allowed travel, and if somebody stops me from travel, there's a breach of the law.
Yeah.
That's
you
you.
can force us to do the vaccination.
Exactly, it's the same thing.
I understand
Yeah.
what you mean. Yeah, of course, I
But
understand
if,
it. Yeah.
probably in the future, if you want to travel,
That's
we have
what,
to do the
It's crazy
vaccination.
now.
Otherwise, we're
Right.
not allowed to travel anymore.
And-
That's what they're going
but-
to probably will do.
and that's why I'm getting home now, actually, because I'll probably never travel again. There's no way I would take an
Yeah.
experimental gene technology into my body.
Well,
Right, they'd have to kill me
you're
before I
thinking
do
like
that.
my son. He
Right.
thinks the same way.
Well,
but at
it's-
the moment, there's not much we can do about it because the rules are not.
Right. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
let's
but
see
I
which.
don't know
It's the
where
embassy.
you can go to this.
Hmm.
The
Yeah,
embassy-
probably
then-
the embassy, and maybe you can get a letter or something that you're accepted
I think,
for
yeah,
a PCR
a
test.
letter.
But the problem is, we're not
Maybe.
allowed to do so anyway. We are not allowed
Or
to
the
take
Aer
them on board.
Lingus.
Aer Lingus. Yeah, but who do I
Maybe Aer
contact?
Lingus, maybe.
No, people say, Aidan, but if you get on the plane, you could be risking other people's lives because you could be sick. Well, first of all, I'm not sick, I'm healthy. And if they're that concerned, then they should probably just stay where they're safe at home and not be getting on a plane, sitting right beside people if they're that in fear. The reality is you can't go around telling people that they can't get on a transport because they might have a disease or an illness. Like if someone had hepatitis B or TB or the AIDS virus, would you demand a test from them? And if they didn't have the result that you felt was appropriate, you just say you can't get on. No, you wouldn't do that. And the reason you wouldn't do it is because it's clearly an act of discrimination. And that's what's going on. I was discriminated against. So I could have fought Aer Lingus, and I intend on continuing that fight, you know, but I wanted to do it when I got back to Ireland. So I decided I'll get the boat, right? So I went from Amsterdam, I got the train. It's 2 trains. One train ride went to Paris and then Paris to Cherbourg. They're about 4 hours each, and I get on the first one and I've no mask. I don't wear a mask. They're really into the mask thing in France. They wear them outdoors and everything, you know, on the street, and there's a curfew. They're not allowed out after 6 p.m. You know, vive la révolution. What would Napoleon think? So I get on the train, and the train conductor, le conducteur, came over and he asked me for, you know, why I had no mask on, and I just told him, yeah, I'm exempt from that. And he went grand, and he gave me like a VIP carriage, my entire 4 velvet seats in a VIP area, and he offered me. Now, some people might have been offended at the idea of having to sit at a different seat on the train, but I was okay with it because it was more comfortable. So I sat in the VIP carriage. I got to Paris, and when I got off, I was walking towards the exit because I had to exit that station onto the next station, and I saw like this large group of policemen dressed with black armoured bulletproof vests and, you know, masks, and looking real scary. And they were looking for papers to see if you had the PCR tests, you know. And I was thinking, oh no, I'm going to get stopped in Paris. They're going to put me in a prison or make me join the Foreign Legion or something. And this woman, young woman in front of me, she stopped and she showed her papers. And I don't know what happened, but I just kept on walking, just right past them, like, you know, your man in the Matrix, Neo. And great, I got away with it. So I'm through Paris, onto the next, had a crepe and a cider in the next station, got on it, got to Cherbourg, and then I got a taxi to the boat. I am outside Cherbourg, the ferry, the port where the boats are. I'm hoping to be travelling home on the boat in about an hour and a half. I was refused my right to travel by Aer Lingus, by the ticket staff there in the airport in Amsterdam, and they broke the law by refusing me my right to travel. So I got trains, 2 train rides, one to Paris. There was some police there looking for some sort of paper documentation about PCR tests, so I walked around them to avoid that, and then got the trains. I had a crepe in Paris, my time for a crepe and a cider, a 2% cider, and now I'm here. So that's what I've done for the day. So hopefully I'll be on my way home in an hour and a half. I get there and I go straight to where the counter desk is, and I hand in my passport, and the lady goes, PCR test. I said, I don't have one of those, and she goes, no PCR test, you can't get on the boat. So you can see on the passport here,
What?
you can read that it says I have a right to travel.
Yeah, but this is a right to travel because you are a EU citizen.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
but PCR test is for COVID.
Alright, so-
If you don't have PCR test, even if you are from Ireland or wherever, no go.
Okay,
That's the rules of the immigration.
Yeah, but that's immigration, which would be with the state. So I can deal with that with immigration. But
No,
you're
because
working for
we are a company.
you're
and-
Stena line.
Yeah, okay, you
So
want me to call the immigration in Rossler?
Happily.
Okay, no problem.
But I've
because you're not gonna
But
do
well,
it.
hold on. It's only about. I've no problem talking to. We don't need to.
And you know what?
It's only.
I'm pissed off
I'm
of
just a man
people
talking to a
who
woman. We
otherwise-
can be very calm here. There's no need to get angry or anything. But the.
Yeah, I'm gonna get hungry because I have too much people like you without the good papers to travel today, okay?
But-
it is a law and it's on the website if you have no PCR. Attends, il a pas de PCR test. Hein.
Can
If you have no PCR test, no go.
I've been refused the right to travel. They're saying it's because of the border control. The lady refused to give her name. There she is now. You've one last chance to give your name. What is your name? You refused me my right to travel. What's your name? And you're refusing to give your name. Principle 4 of the Nuremberg. Orders are orders is not enough. Jesus Christ, man, these people.
And I was like, okay, here we go again. So I went through the same situation where I'm explaining that, you know, you're asking me, you know, for private medical information. And according to the GDPR, and they didn't know or care what that was, that you can't ask me that, that's private. And she said, no PCR, you don't get on. And I said, I can't have one for my health. And she said, you have to, which means that she's coercing me into taking medical treatment, medical procedure. And that's against the Nuremberg principle. So I very, very politely as I could be, considering there was 4 or 5 people interrupting me and speaking over me, I said, you guys are coercing me into taking a medical procedure I don't want, and that's against the Nuremberg principle. And when I mentioned the Nuremberg principle, your woman started shouting and they pulled down the shutters, which meant that they knew what the Nuremberg principle meant. It means that you can't be excused because of an excuse. I'm just following orders. I'm just doing what my boss told me. And rightfully so. Because if you're denying someone a basic human right, yeah, you might be told to do it. You might lose your job. But ultimately, if the law is that we have the right to travel freely and you're telling someone that they can't, well, you're breaking the law, and there could be criminal charges for that.
So you're refusing to give me your name.
I don't
That's it. You do. Yes, you do.
But I have yours, and
yes,
you're
of
filming,
course.
and you
I'm
know
allowed
I know
film.
the law.
If there's a crime being committed,
And you're filming
there's a
and
crime
I-
being
I
committed.
just-
You've refused me my right to travel.
I will go to Borough the police.
Yes, call the police. I'm allowed travel,
I will
and
go
you.
for honours. And just with your country. It's not my country. I'm not Irish.
Yeah, but there is the law. The law has been broken today. A crime has been committed. Right. But how have I committed a crime?
Because you weren't. You're filming.
You got upset because I mentioned the Nuremberg Code, Principle 4, the Universal Declaration of Rights, Article 13. Do they not apply here? You think they don't apply? They do apply. They're the law. They remain the law, whether you agree with them or not. It is the law. It is the truth. It is the fact.
Stena Line didn't care. They laughed in my face and ignored me. So I was stuck in Cherbourg trying to find a way home. So I thought, well, I'll go to the Irish Embassy. So I contacted the Irish Embassy. I rang them. They said that they'd ring back, and they did ring back, and they said they can't help me because I had to take the PCR test. And I said, what about another test? Can I spit on a tissue? What about the blood test? I'm just not comfortable with something going right into my naval passageway, up into my cavity. Like, does it really have to go back that far? And is it a cotton wool? Is it just cotton wool, or is there anything else on that? Because if it's not cotton wool and it's a cancer creating agent, well, I don't want that in my body. And she didn't care. She wasn't interested. And I said, okay, right, well, I need it in writing. So I wrote them a very clear email and holding them responsible for my safety while I was stuck in another country against my consent. and they didn't respond. So I wrote them another email, and then I rang them, and it turns out they did respond, but the ambassador, Patricia, her email went into my junk inbox, and considering the content of her email, that was the perfect place for it. She just did a copy-paste government regulation thing, sent it to me, and I was like, what are you doing? You're aiding and abetting a company who are trying to coerce me into breaking our human rights, and you're representing our country. You're a public servant. You're here to serve passport holders, citizens, the free people of Ireland. So I went to Irish Ferries, and the woman was beautiful. She was a lovely woman, very just a kind soul, Irish, charming, and she understood the predicament. And when I say we, I'd gone to Freedom Travel Alliance at this stage, and they looked into it, and they found ways that I'd be able to get back legally. Now, there's of course many people out there who are telling me, why don't you just forge the document? And I could do that. Of course I could forge the document, but it would be illegal and it would be dishonourable. And as an honourable man, someone, you know, who wants to be able to stand within the law and go back to his own country, I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to be able to travel home without hindrance, without being stopped, to where I'm born, to where I'm safe. So I refused to fake a document. I didn't want to cheat. So I wanted the ambassador to help. I wanted Irish Ferries to help. I wanted Stena Line. I wanted Aer Lingus to do their job and bring me home. But all of the time, they were being forced under the threat of Irish immigration to get fined if they let me on through to use their boats or their facilities. Irish Ferries wouldn't let me on, even though I'd pointed out that I was within the restrictions that were provided. So I'm back in Cherbourg trying to find a way home. We looked at fishermen. I talked to fishermen. Poor little refugee, disowned, rejected and dejected by his corrupt state of Ireland, the entity known as Ireland. So let's see if one of these boats here. Anybody going to Ireland? Anybody going to Ireland? We're having a look for an old boat. A fisherman maybe who'd like to earn a few extra shillings. Otherwise, I've cancelled my boat ride today because Net Ferry, aka Stena Line tickets agent, they said that I needed to get a PCR test, and I asked them, were they allowed to coerce me into any medical procedures? And then they got uncomfortable and said, the person said they were not a competent body to answer that question, which I thought was hilarious. Oh, there's a nice boat. Check out this one. Oh yeah, so I'm going home on that boat there. That's my plan today. Guys, I'll keep you updated. I'm off to get a baguette. Have a lovely day. There was a possibility, but the weather was wrong. I talked to a sailor man, and we did have a boat, but it wasn't going for a while. We talked to a pilot. There was a pilot guy who was going to fly, but we needed to be able to land somewhere in Ireland. I talked to someone who was going to let us use their landing strip. There was a lot of different ideas at the time. And Freedom Travel Alliance, there was a lot of Zoom calls. We spent some time. Dolores was helping. And eventually we found a way for me to get home. A lot of people ask me, how did I get back to Ireland without taking a PCR test or filling in one of those locator forms? And I could tell you the details, but if I did, it might affect other people coming after me, so I won't. But I'll tell you that it was trial and error by doing a lot of different things, looking at ways around the system with Freedom Travel Alliance. You know, they got me home. So I think you should become a member. It's not an ad here. I just think everybody should be supporting a new reality, or a reality where we can all travel freely. And people go, why didn't you just take the thing? Why didn't you just take the thing, Aidan? I'll tell you why I didn't take the thing, because I didn't want to. It's my body, my consent. But like, it's also more than that. It's what's to come. This travel passport, this health apartheid, the idea that they're going to separate people who, oh, you're safe to travel because you've had your vaccine. You're not safe because you could potentially have an illness. That's a sickness. and it's dangerous, and I don't participate, I don't consent to have anything to do with that. And I don't have any major answers, but I see things that are in Ireland that are happening that I'm horrified with. I'm seeing businesses closed, family businesses that may never come back. I don't know what's going to happen to the middle class of Ireland, you know, where they were earning an income and paying income tax, and now they're just living off this borrowed government fund money. Where is that going to last forever? What are the consequences of that? What's the consequence of people staying in 5 kilometres and becoming a nation of liars and snitches? People ringing on their neighbours because they saw them go into the neighbour's house to have a cup of tea. If people can't gather and people can't earn a living, what are we doing this for? So I suppose I'd say, like, if you're wearing a mask, if you really believe it works, you know, I'd do so without judgment, but maybe if you could look into it. And I don't mean watching RT or reading the Irish Times. Look into the actual 50 years of research done on masks. And you might find that if they don't work, then choose, maybe don't do it. And if you think they don't work, but you're wearing it anyway, just to fit in, or you don't want a bit of confrontation, you've got to stop, because you're damaging the future. Because what we do today is tomorrow. That's the new norm. And if the PCR test you want to do it, the problem is they have a lot of false positives. The inventor says they're not fit for purpose. We're not meant to be using it like this. And so we're getting a case-demic. Millions of cases, but not actual sick people. Therefore, governments are using cases to create legislation, to create lockdowns, which destroys everything we all care about. So don't get the test. If you want to get what they're calling a vaccine, I can't comment on that. I mean, obviously I wouldn't, but good luck if you do. And the only other thing is this thing in Ireland where they're not letting us travel 5 kilometres, and they ask you, the Garda Síochána, who probably don't even want to have to ask you in the first place, standing outside in traffic all day long, where are you coming from, where are you going? Don't tell them. It's not their business. It's not their right to ask. The answer is, am I under arrest? And if not, am I free to go? Because we can't be telling them lies. I'm just going shopping. I'm just going there. Because if we continue to lie, we're going to create more lies. And now's the time for us to stop this madness and, you know, maybe become a nation of people who are telling the truth. Fucking hell. Jesus, that'll do. I'm done.